Welcome back, Crammers, to question 1. Write these numbers in order of size. Start with the smallest number. So first off, we count how many digits they have, and we can see we have 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Since 2 is the smallest, we start with that. Then of the 3's, we can see we have 100, 100, 200, 400. So we start with 100, we have 171 and 105. 105 being smaller, then 171, then 233, and 490. Right, in figures, the number 5,102. So we start with ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. Going from right to left, we have 2. Then tens are not given, so we just write 0. Then hundreds is given as 1, so we simply write 1. And thousands is given as 5, so we simply write 5. Write down the value of 3 in the number 7,439. Again, ones and tens. Since 3 coincides with tens, we simply write tens. Write the number 651 correct to the nearest hundreds. We look at the hundreds, and the value after that is a 5. We follow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 to 4 we round down, 5 to 9 we round up. Since 5 is between 5 to 9, we round up. That means the nearest hundred is 700. Question 2. The bar chart shows information about the weight of steel in millions of tons exported by each of the 5 countries in 2019. Write down the weight of steel exported by Germany. So first we look for Germany, goes here. Then we draw a line perpendicular to the y-axis, and we see that it's 40 million tons. Write down the country that exported 88 million tons of steel. So we go here until we find about 88, and we draw an arrow perpendicular, and we find that it is USA. Work out the difference between the weight of steel exported by Japan and the weight of steel exported by Saudi Arabia. So difference is when we subtract. So for Japan, we have 100 million, and then we subtract for Saudi Arabia, which is over here, 5 million. So 100 minus 5 is 95. So the difference is 95 million tons. Italy exported 25 million tons of steel in 2019. Draw a bar on the bar chart to show this information. So simply we look at the y-axis. We go 10, 20, 30. Halfway between 20 and 30 must be 25. So we simply draw a line perpendicular. And for Italy, we draw a line here, here, and here. And that is our bar chart. Question 3. Write down the mathematical name for an 8-sided polygon. An easy way to remember this is what animal has 8 legs? An octopus. So we write here octo for 8 and gon. So we write octagon. Okay. What type of angle is marked as x? So when we have a straight line, that's 180 degrees. When we have a 90 degree, it is a right angle. Greater than 90 degrees is obtuse, and less than 90 degrees is acute. So we simply write here acute angle. On the diagram above, draw a chord of the circle. Now, a chord is a line which does not go through the middle, so we can draw any line here as long as it doesn't pass through the middle. Change 3.6 meters into centimeters. When changing meters into centimeters, we multiply the value by 100. So we simply get 360 centimeters. Thanks for question 4. The diagram shows 3 points A, B, C, and a line EF on the grid. Write down the coordinates of point A. We simply go on the x-axis first. That's 1. And it's on 0 on the y-axis. So here's 0. The coordinates of point D are 3, negative 2. So we simply go on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3. And we go down to negative 2. Put a cross here and label it as D. Find the midpoint of BC. So here we have B, and here we have C. In order to find the midpoint, we simply follow x2 plus x1 divided by 2, y2 plus y1 divided by 2. So x coordinate of B is negative 4, and then we add x coordinate of C, which is negative 2, and we divide by 2. The y coordinate of B is 2, and the y coordinate of C is negative 4. It's negative 4, and then we divide by 2. Negative 4 plus negative 2 is negative 6. Divided by 2 is negative 3. 2 plus negative 4 is negative 2. Divided by 2 is negative 1. Write down the equation of the line EF. You can see that the line EF is perfectly perpendicular to the y-axis. That means y is equal to this value, which we can see here as 3. Y is equal to 3. Question 5. Pat has 4 parcels A, B, C, and D. The weight of parcel A is 400 grams, which is given. The weight of parcel B is 350 grams more than the weight of parcel A, so that means we simply add 350. So 400 plus 350 gives us 750 grams. The weight of parcel C is twice the weight of parcel A, so that simply means 2 times 400. So this is simply 800 grams. And the total weight of the 4 parcels is 2.5 kilograms. Notice how everything is given in grams. However, the total weight is given in kilograms, so we can convert that to grams to make life easier. So 2.5 kilograms times 1,000 gives us 2,500 grams. Now that we know the total weightage and we know 3 boxes weightage, we can simply subtract that to find the value of D. So 2,500 minus 400 minus 750 minus 800 should give us our answer. As seen here, 2,500 minus 400 minus 750 minus 800 gives us 550 grams. Question 6. Here are the first 5 terms of a number sequence. Write down the next term of the sequence. First off, we have to find the difference between the first and the second term. 10 minus 4 is 6. We can see that 16 minus 10 is also 6. So that means the next term in the sequence has to be plus 6 plus 6. So 28 plus 6 is simply 34. Explain how you worked out your answer. We add 6. Work out the 13th term of this sequence. The formula for finding the nth term of a sequence is simply a plus n minus 1d. Now, what does this mean? A is the first term of the sequence, which is 4, and we add n, which is the term we're trying to find, so 13 minus 1 times d, which is the difference we found to be 6. We can simplify this to 4 plus 12 times 6. Now, if we put this into a calculator, we can find our answer. 4 plus 12 times 6 gives us 76. So what did we do here? So that means we started off with 4 and we simply added 6 13 times. So we can see here that we have 76. Explain why 467 cannot be a number in the following sequence. So why is that? First off, if I erase everything here, you can see that they're all even numbers. Every time you add an even number to an even number, you always get an even number. So we see here, 4 plus 6 is 10, 10 plus 6 is 16. No matter how far we go into the sequence, it'll never be a negative number. So 467 is a negative number. Question 7. In a field, there are 60 sheep and 24 cows. Find the ratio of sheep to the number of cows. Give your ratio in its simplest form. So sheep are given as 60 and cows are given to 24. Now we have to find the highest common factor in order to simplify this. I can say that 60 and 24 are both divisible by 12. So I can simply write here, 60 divided by 12 is 5. And 24 divided by 12 is 2. And since we can't simplify that any further, that's our final answer. In a barn, there are only white ducks and brown ducks. In the barn, the ratio of white ducks to brown ducks is 3:7. What fraction of the ducks in the barn is white? So we know that white is 3. And fraction of ducks in the whole barn. So we have to find the total. So 3 plus 7 is equal to 10. So we simply write here 10. Our fraction is 3/10. Giles and Sarah share some bales of hay in the ratio 11:4. Sarah receives 20 bales of hay. Work out how many bales of hay are shared in total. So we can see here that Sarah receives 20 bales of hay even though her share is only 4. So we can write 20 divided by 4 is 1 unit. so we simply multiply by 11. 20 divided by 4 is simply 5, so 5 times 11 is equal to 55, and we have to find the total. So 55 plus Sarah's share, which is 20, is simply equal to 75. Linford is going to take part in athletics event. He can choose one event from list A and then one event from list B. Write down all the possible combinations that Linford can choose. What this means is Linford can do discus and then he can do a long jump. So let's write discus and then long jump. He can also choose discus, and instead of choosing long jump, he can choose pole vault. So discus, pole vault. And then again, he can choose discus, and instead of the first two, he can choose relay. On top of all that, he can do the exact same things if he chooses any of the other events. Let's see here. If he chooses hammer, he can do long jump, or hammer and pole vault, or hammer and relay. He can even do javelin and long jump, javelin and pole vault, javelin and relay. Then again, he can do shot put and long jump, shot put and pole vault, and finally shot put and relay. Thanks for watching. Question 9. Write the time 8:30 using a 24-hour clock. We can see that it's PM, so PM is simply 12 plus whatever hour, so 8 plus 12 is 20, and we write the 30, so it's 20:30. Ella started watching television at 10:50 a.m. She watched a comedy program lasting 45 minutes, a sports program lasting 1 hour 70 minutes, and we know that an hour is equal to 60 minutes, so we can simply write here 70 minutes, and the history program, which is unknown. There were no breaks, no advertisements between the programs. Ella finished watching television at 2:20 p.m. How long did the history program last? If we're able to find the total duration and subtract the comedy program and the sports program, we can then find the time for the history program. So firstly, we can convert 2:20 p.m. into a 24-hour clock. So 2 plus 12 is simply 14, and we write the time as 20. Now we have to convert the hours to minutes in order to find this out. So 14 times 20 plus, 14 times 60 plus 20, and then we subtract 10 times 60 plus 50. In order to get the total duration of minutes, we can then use our calculator here, bracket 14 times 60 plus 20, close the bracket, subtract, open bracket. We have 10 times 60 plus 50. We have 210 total minutes elapsed. 210 total minutes elapsed. And we can see here that the comedy program lasted 45 minutes. So we can write here 210, which is the total. Subtract the comedy program, so 45. Subtract the sports program, which is 70 minutes. We can then get the elongation of the history program. So if we use our calculator here, we simply have 210 minus 45 minus 70, which gives us 95 total minutes. Question 10. Herman changed 500 pounds into euros. Given that the exchange rate was 1 pound to 1.18 euros, work out how much money in euros Herman received. So we can see here that 1 pound is equivalent to 1.18 euros, and he gave forth 500 pounds into, he doesn't know how much he received. So we can simply multiply both sides by x. Multiply by x, this simply cancels out. And we can multiply both sides by 1.18. So times 1.18, this cancels out, times 1.18. So we can simply see that x is equal to 500 times 1.18. And we can use a calculator to find the answer. We have 500 times 1.18. That is 590 euros. 590 euros. I need to change $350 into pounds. The exchange rate was 1 pound is to $1.40. Work out how much money in pounds Anita received. Okay, so we can see here that 1 pound is to $1.4. And she has here an unknown amount of pounds to $350. we can simply multiply both sides by 350. This cancels out, and we simply get x is equal to 350 divided by 1.4. We can then use our calculator here. 350 divided by 1.4. That gives us 250 pounds. Question 11. Asif has 200 beads. Asif gives 1/4 of the beads to Bernadette, 2/5 of the beads to Claudio, 43 beads to Derek. What fraction of the 200 beads does Asif have left? So we see here 1/4 times 200 is simply 50. And 2/5 times 20, we can cancel this out. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So 40 times 2, that is 80. 80. So now that we know how many beads he gave away, we can subtract that from 200 and divide it by the total to find the fraction of what Asif has left. So we can write here 200, he gave away 50, gave away 80, and gave away 43. Then to find the fraction of the 200 beads, that means we have to divide by 200 again. So we can see here that 200 minus 50 minus 80 minus 43, that is about 27 over 200. So that is our final answer, 27 over 200. Question 12. 30 children were asked whether they have a cat or a dog. Of the 30 children, 5 have both a cat and a dog. 13 have a dog, so that means some of them can have a cat. 11 only have a cat. Complete the Venn diagram. So we can see that C and D are already drawn for us. 11 only have a cat, so we can write that here. 5 have both a cat and a dog, so we can write that here. However, 13 have a dog, and of those 13, 5 have a cat, so we can simply write 13 minus 5, that gives us 8. Now, we have a missing value here. We know that the total amount of children is given as 30. So if we simply add 11, 5, and 8 and subtract it from 30, we can then find our value. So 30 minus 11 minus 5 minus 8 gives us 6. So 6 children do not have a cat or a dog. One of the children is picked at random. Find the probability that this child has a dog. So we already have here 13 have a dog. So we can write here 13 over the total amount of children, which is 30. So we can write here 13 over 30. Write down the probability that this child does not have a dog and does not have a cat. We can already see here that 6 children do not have a dog or cat. So we can simply write 6 over 30. So over here, 6 over 30. Question 13. The diagram shows the plan of a floor. Indira is going to paint the floor. She needs to buy enough tins of paint to cover the floor with 1 coat of paint. Each tin of paint covers an area of 7 meters squared. Each tin of paint costs 23.9 pounds. Indira wants to buy the least possible number of tins of paint. That means this cannot be a decimal. Work out the total cost of tins of paint Indira buys, or show your working cleared. So what do I mean by not a decimal? It means she can only have a whole number of paint, but she can have a decimal of pounds. So let's see what I mean. Firstly, if we're able to find the whole area and divide it by 7, multiply by 23.9, we can then find the total value of the paint she needs. So firstly, we can see that this shape is comprised of 2 rectangles, but this side is not given. We can see that 15 minus 8 will give us that size. 15 minus 8 is equal to 7. And we can see here. Now, to find the area of a rectangle is simply length times width. So for this area, it's simply 12 times 8 plus 7 times 3, which is then divided by 7, since 1 tin of paint covers an area of 7 meters squared. Now, I can see here 12 times 8 is 96, plus 7 times 3 is 21, divided by 7. 96 plus 21 is 117 divided by 7. I can then use our calculator here. We have 117 divided by 7, which is 16.7, which is equal to 16.7. But this is 16.7 tins. Since we can't have half a tin, we have to round up here. So we simply have 17 tins. And since each tin costs 23.9, we simply multiply by 23.9. and then we can find our value. So we simply have 17 times 23.9. We have 406.3 pounds. 406.3 pounds. Question 14, expand x into 10 minus x. Now when multiplying polynomials, we have to multiply into everything inside the brackets. So x times 10x is 10x, and x times negative x. Now when multiplying polynomials, we simply add their powers. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So this is negative x squared. Factorize 6y plus 27. First, I have to look for the highest common factor between these two, and I can see that it's 3. So I can write here 3. And since 27 does not share a common factor with y, I simply write it here. Now, 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 27 divided by 3 is 9. So our final answer is 3 into 2y plus 9. Make m the subject of the formula h is equal to m over 2 plus 4. So firstly, I can multiply by 2 on both sides to remove this. So 2 times h is 2h is equal to m. Now don't forget that the 4 is multiplied with 2, so we have 8 here. Then we bring 8 to the other side, so that becomes a negative. So that means m is equal to 2h minus 8. Solve 7g plus 3 is equal to 2g minus 5. Show clear algebraic working. So first off, we can write here 7g plus 3 is equal to 2g minus 5. We can bring 2g to this side and positive 3 to this side. So 7g minus 2g is equal to negative 5 minus 3. So then we combine all like terms. 7g minus 2g is 5g, and negative 5 plus negative 3 simply adds them, so it's now negative 8. We divide both sides by 5 to remove y, and that means g is equal to negative 8 over 5. Question 15, show that 4 2 over 3 divided by 1 5 over 6 is equal to 2 6 over 11. Firstly, we can change this from mixed fractions to improper fractions, so 4 times 3 gives us 12. We add that with the numerator, so that's 2. So 2 over the original denominator, which is 3, divided by 1 times 6 is 6. 6 plus 5 is 11, divided by 6 is equal to 6 over 11. Now, when dividing a fraction, we can simply find its reciprocal and multiply instead. So we can write here 14 divided by 3 multiplied by 11 over 6 flipped is simply 6 over 11. And then we can write here L equals 2, 6 over 11. Now, between 3 and 6, the highest common factor is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. Here I have 14 and 11, which I cannot find the highest common factor, so I simply leave that as is. 14 times 2 is 28, and 1 times 11 is 11. This is equal to 2, 6 over 11. And the highest multiple of 11 just before 28 is 22. So 22 divided by 11 is 2. 28 minus 11 is, 28 minus 22 is 6 divided by the same denominator. So 2, 6 over 11. And that's our final answer. Question 16. On the grid, rotate triangle A 180 degrees about 1, -1. Label the new triangle B. So first off, we have to find the point of rotation, which is 1, -1. So it is right here. Now note that when you rotate, the distance from the point of rotation will never change. However, we can see that we have to rotate by 180 degrees, which is simply a straight line. So let's see what we can do here. So if we see this point, we can then go down by 2 and left by 2. That means down by 2 and to the left by 2. We can do this again for the other sides. We have through here, we have down by 3 plus 2. Down by 3 plus 2. And then we have here, which is down by 2 and to the left by 4. So that means down by 2 and to the left by 4. So we can actually connect all these lines and see our new shape labeled as B is actually flipped. Notice how A is flipped to B about 180, same as when you do a 180 and you look back. On the grid, translate triangle A by the vector -7, 3. Label the new triangle C. Now, when dealing with vectors, the top number deals with the horizontal and the bottom number deals with the vertical. Being that if it moves to the left, it's negative. If it moves to the right, it's positive. If it moves up, it's positive. If it moves down, it's negative. So let's start with the vector horizontal, which is -7. So that means we have to move to the left 7 times. We have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then notice how it says 3 positive. So that means up. So we have to go 1, 2, 3. So we can put across here. Notice how this is translation. So the shape actually maintains its shape throughout. So if I check here and I go 7, 4, it still maintains. So it goes here and this goes here. We can draw all the lines together and now we have triangle C. Question 17, -8 is less than 2y, which is less than equal to 2. Y is an integer. Find all the possible values of y. Firstly, we have to isolate y, so that means we divide by 2 on all the sides. So -8 divided by 2 is 4. Keep the same inequality. 2y divided by 2 cancels out, and we have y, which is less than equal to 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Now write down all the possible values. Now, y cannot equal -4. It has to be the next value after that. So we write -3, then -2, -1, 0, and 1. The reason we write 1 is because y is less than or equal to 1. Write down inequality shown on the number line. So we can see here that it's moving from negative to positive. So that must mean greater than. It is not circled in. So what does that mean? If it's circled in, it has this equal sign below it. Now, it's going from -1 all the way after 5. You can see this arrow. So that means it goes on infinitely. Infinitely. So that means here, x is greater than -1. X is greater than -1 because it goes on infinitely. There is no end. Question 18. Using ruler and compasses only, construct the bisector angle BAC. You must show all your construction lines. So a bisector is simply the exact middle. Now, using your protractor, measure A to C and simply draw an arc equivalent to that length, and then measure A to B and then draw an arc equivalent to that length. Now, the point at which they intersect, you simply use a ruler and connect from origin A all the way to the point where they intersect. Make sure it is a straight line, and that is your bisector. Question 19. On the grid, draw the graph of 5x plus 2y is equal to 10, or the values of x from -2 to 4. So first off, we can draw a chart for the values of x to y. So we have 2 to 4, which is -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can then draw lines for some comprehension. And we can actually simplify this equation by moving 5x to the other side and dividing by 2. So that means y is equal to 10 minus 5x divided by 2. Now when we input x, it's a lot easier to find what y is. So let's see. Then x is -2, so that's 10 minus 5 times -2 divided by 2. That's 10 minus 10 divided by 2. That gives us 20 divided by 2. And that gives us 10. Now moving on, our next value is -1. So 10 minus 5 times -1 is -5 divided by 2. When you minus a negative number, it simply adds. So 15 divided by 2 is simply 7.5. Now moving on to our next value, we have 0. So 10 minus 5 times 0 is 0 divided by 2. That's 10 divided by 2. So now that's 5. And our next value is 1. So 10 minus 5 times 1 is 5 divided by 2 is simply 2.5. And our next value is 2. So we have 10 minus 5 times 2 is 10 divided by 2. That's 0 over 2. So that's simply 0. Then we have 3. So we have 5 times 3. So that's 10 minus 5 times 3. So it's 15 divided by 2. That becomes a negative number. So it's negative 5 divided by 2. So that's negative 2.5. Okay, moving on. We have our last value, which is 4. 10 minus 5 times 4 is 20 divided by 2. That's negative 10 divided by 2. That's equal to negative 5. Now that we have all our values, we can actually start drawing the graph. Okay, so we start on the x-axis, negative 2, and then we move up to 10. So that's over here. We can then draw a cross there and move on to the next value. Negative 1 and 7.5. So negative 1 and between 7 and 8 is 7.5. So we simply draw a cross there. On the x-axis 0 and the y-axis 5, we can simply draw a line here. On the x-axis 1 and the y-axis 2.5, that's between 2 and 3, so that's over here. And on the x-axis, which is 2, y-axis is 0, so that's just here. On the x-axis is 3, and the y-axis is negative 2.5, so we move down here. And for 4, we finally have negative 5, so we move down here. And always remember, use a ruler to draw a straight line through all the crosses. Question 20. In a bag, there are only red counters, blue counters, green counters, and yellow counters. The total number of counters in the bag is given as 80. In the bag, the number of red counters is x plus 7, the number of blue counters is x minus 11, and the number of green counters is 3x. Jude takes a random counter from the bag. The probability that he takes a red counter is 1/4. Work out the probability that Jude takes a yellow counter. So it's given that the probability is already 1/4, and we know the total. So if we know the probability is 1/4 and we know the number of red counters, we can simply multiply 1/4 times 80 gives us the number of red counters, which is already given as x plus 7. We can simplify. 80 divided by 4 is 20, and 20 times 1 is simply 20, which is equal to x plus 7. We bring 7 to the other side. That means x is equal to 20 minus 7. X is equal to 13. Now we can simplify this to something we can read more easily. 13, x is equal to 13. 13 plus 7 is simply 20. 13 minus 11 is 2. And 3 times 13 is 39. Now that we know the total value of all the counters in the bag, we can then subtract that from the whole, which is 80, to find the probability that Jude takes a yellow counter. Okay, so we can see here that the total is 80. We then subtract the number of counters we have. So we have 20 for red, 2 for blue, and 39 for green. So we can then find that out using our calculator. 80 minus 20 minus 2 minus 39 gives us 19. So that's 19 total yellow counters. But we have to find the probability that Jude takes a counter. So probability is simply the amount it happens over the total. And the total is given as 80. So it's simply 19 over 80. Question 21. Find the highest common factor of 240. So we can simply write here 200 and 420. Now, when trying to find the highest common factor, we have to continue to divide it by a factor until we can no longer divide it by a common factor. So we can see here 200 and 420 is divisible by 2. So 200 divided by 2 is 100. And 420 divided by 2 is 210. We can then divide this further by 2 again. So 100 divided by 2 is 50. 210 divided by 2 is 105. Now both are divisible by 5. So 50 divided by 5 is simply 10. And 105 divided by 5 is 21. But notice how 10 and 21 do not have a common factor here. 10 is divisible by 2, but 21 is not. 21 is divisible by 3, but 10 is not. So that means all we have here is 2, 2, 5. So we simply multiply that together. 2 times 2 times 5. That's 4 times 5. And that is simply equal to 20. That is our highest common factor. Now we have Find the lowest common multiple of ABC. Write your answer as a product of powers of prime numbers. Now, when trying to find the LCM, simply take the smallest value, which is here given as 2, and we find the highest power. So here it's 3. Notice how B has 2 to the power of 1. We don't write that because 2 to the power of 3 is greater. So then we move on to the next one, which is 3. We have 3 to the power of 1 and 3 to the power of 2. So we simply write 3 to the power of 2. Then we have 5, and 5 to the power of 2 is greater. Then we have 7 and 7 to the power of 2, and 7 to the power of 2 is greater. And we simply write 11 since it's the only one there. So we have to put this answer here, 2 to the power of 3 times 3 to the power of 2 times 5 to the power of 2 times 7 to the power of 2 times 11. The reason we don't outright multiply this is because it's asking to give our answer as a product of powers of prime numbers, so it's simply asking for the equation. Question 22. 60 students sat a mathematics exam. The mean mark for 32 students in class A was 55. The mean mark for 28 students in class B was 52. Find the mean mark for all 60 students. So mean is simply equal to total divided by quantity, but that also means that if we bring quantity to the other side, then total is equal to mean times quantity. How does this help us? If we're able to find the total for class A and the total for class B and divide it by 60, we get the mean for all 60 students. So in order to find the total, it's simply the mean times the amount. So we can see here that the mean for class A was 55 and multiplied by the amount of students is 32. Then we have to add that with the other total, which is 52 times 28. And to find the mean, it is simply total divided by quantity. And since this is our total, we can then divide it by 60 in order to find our mean. We can then put this into a calculator to find our answer, which is 55 times 32 plus 52 times 28, which is then divided by 60. That gives us 53.6. 53.6. What does that mean? That means the mean mark for all 60 students is 53.6. So just about there. Question 23. Teresa invests 2,000 for 3 years in a savings account. She gets 4% each year compound interest. How much money will Teresa have in her savings account at the end of the 3 years? So we can see here that the formula for compound interest is A is equal to principal amount times 1 plus interest rate over 100 to the power of NT. Don't worry, I'll explain. A is the final amount. P is the initial amount you start with. We put 1 plus the interest rate is already given here as 4%. Divide by 100. N is the number of times she invests per year. So since this is only once per year, we simply write here 1. And T is for how many years? So we can simply write that as 3. We can simplify this to A is equal to 2,000 into 1 plus 4 over 100 is 1.04. 1 times 3 is 3. So we can then put this into a calculator to find our answer, which is given to us as 2,000 into 1.04 to the power of 3, which is 2249.7. 2249.7, correct to the nearest dollar. So that means we have to round this up. So when we round this up, it changes the 9. So 9 plus 1 is 10, and that adds 1 here. So that means A is equal to 2250. $2250. Sam invested T dollars. The value of his investment decreased by 9% each year. So that means that it is simply 1 minus 9 divided by 100, or we can simply write as 1 minus 0.09. We can see here at the end of the first year, the value of Sam's investment was $1,365. Work out the value of T. So since we know that it decreased by 9%, this is simply 100 minus 9%. So we can simply write here 1,365 divided by this value. So 1 minus 0.09. So we can actually put brackets here and we can use our calculator here to find the answer. It is 1,365 divided by 1 minus 0.09, which is 1,500. 1,500. Considering that his investment decreased, the initial amount will be greater than the final amount. Question 24. The diagram shows two solids A and B made from two different metals. Solid A has the shape of a cylinder with a radius c centimeters and a height of 7 centimeters. Solid A has a mass of 2,000 grams, solid B has a mass of 3,375 grams, and a volume of 450 centimeters cubed. All of the metal from solid A and solid B is melted down to make a uniform solid C. There is no change to mass or volume during this process. So that means the mass of C is equal to the mass of A plus the mass of B. And for volume, so we can write here volume of C is equal to volume of A plus volume of B, since they're being melted down to make the uniform solid C. Work out the density of solid C correct to 1 decimal place. So density is equal to mass over volume. So if we can find the total mass, we can then find the total volume, and we can then find the density. So let's do that. We can see here that the volume for A is not actually given. We only have measurements. Thankfully, though, the measurements for solid A are given as 3 centimeters and 7 centimeters. And we know that the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times height. And we have pi, the radius is 3, and the height is 7. So pi into 3 squared is 9 times 7. That is simply 63 pi. And now we can combine everything. So density is equal to the mass of A, which is 2,000, plus the mass of B, which is 3,375, divided by the volume of A, which we found to be 63 pi, plus the volume of B, which is 450. So we can put this into a calculator to find our answer. We have 2,000 plus 3,375 divided by 63 pi plus 450. Oh, okay. Plus 450. That gives us 8.29, which is equal to 8.29 rounded to the nearest decimal place. So since this is the first decimal place, we round up. So this is equal to 8.3. 8.3 grams per centimeter cube. Question 25. A, B, C, D, D, E, and E, F are 5 sides of a regular polygon. That means this side is equal to this side, which is equal to this side. RST, SCU, and BCV are straight lines as seen. RST is parallel to CD, so we can see it's like this. Angle RSC is 128 degrees. Angle UCV is 32 degrees. Work out how many sides the polygon has. So first off, we can see that this is a straight line. And since these are parallel, we know that this angle is congruent to this angle. So this is 128 degrees. Again, we can see that this and this means that this angle is congruent to 32 degrees. 32 degrees. Okay. Now we can see that 32 degrees plus 128 degrees gives us one of the interior angles. And since we have to work out how many sides the polygon has, we can simply use the equation 180 into n minus 2 is equal sum of the interior angles. But we want to get only one of those angles, and since we don't know how many sides there are, we simply divide it by n. So that means that here, 180 into n minus 2 divided by n is equal to 32 plus 128 128. So that means 180 into n minus 2 over n is equal to 32 plus 128 is 160. I can multiply n on both sides to cancel out, multiply by n. Then I can see here that we can multiply further. 180 times n is 180n. 180 times negative 2 is negative 360, which is equal to 160n. We can then bring them to their proper sides. 180n minus 160n is equal to 360. 180 minus 160 is 20n, which is equal to 360, which we then divide by 20 to find what n is. This cancels out. So 36 divided by 2 is 18. So there are 18 sides to this polygon. Thanks for watching. Cram, then scram.